yesterday and decided we should start spring a little early, so he moved the press conference up. But now we're finishing up our 7th week of our winter workouts. We kind of ID that as what we call the foundation. And really, just so you know, it's 4 weeks where they're with Mike Joseph and our strength conditioning staff, and there's no coach involvement. Monday through Friday, they're getting after it in the weight room and working on speed, agility, and quickness. And those guys did a tremendous job. I really think Mike is, and probably don't talk about him as much as we need to, I think he's the best in the business. And really impressed with what he got done in those initial 4 weeks while a lot of the coaches are still on the road. Working on the 23 recruiting class, not necessarily the 22, but working on the 23 class. And then now we're in week 3 of the second phase of the foundation, and we lift on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on Tuesday and Thursdays we do team workouts. And on Tuesday it's really focused around speed, agility, quickness, more of a competition oriented. And then on Thursday it's really around kind of discipline and mental toughness. So we had our 6th one of those workouts today, and then we'll go next week through Thursday, and then we'll have spring break, and then we'll come back and we'll start spring practice on the 22nd. And then we'll end with our annual spring game on April 23rd. So that's kind of the calendar looking ahead. Really the first true off season we've had since 2019, where you're going to go into your natural progression, where you have this 8-week period, and then you transition to a 5-week spring ball, and then they go home for May and come back for an 8-week summer. Last year we only had really 1.5 of these workouts. We had a huge COVID outbreak right after the Super Bowl last year, and we just didn't have these. And I think that one thing that as we got into the season and we were having some issues that were some repeated mistakes, is one thing that really stuck out to me is, like, when you miss a certain part of your offseason, you can't get that back. So the things we're doing right now, like, we can't make those up in the summer because we can't ask our kids to do some of the things because they're in game preparation, getting ready for the season. And so this is the first one we've had going back to 2019. Really excited about this staff and team. I think that maybe some of the outside noise doesn't reflect that, but I'll tell you, within these walls right here, man, this group is really excited. This is the hungriest team that we've had. It's the most competitive team we've had. From a group that's where it's supposed to be, doing what it's supposed to be doing. This is by far the best group that we've had. And I told them after the workout today, and this is the 6th one that we've had, like I told you, is competitiveness is at an all-time high here. I thought embracing hard work. This stuff that we're doing right now, I don't think it's anybody's favorite thing to do. Whether it's Coach Joseph, even our strength conditioning staff, our players, our football staff. I don't think this part of the season, this part of the year is your favorite part, but it's hard, but it's necessary. Like, it's necessary, and this group is embracing it. They're embracing the hard work. Really encouraging the lowest amount of really complaining that we've had over 3 years. So really excited about it. Last time we were together, and I've seen some of you guys, whether I've done radio pieces or seen you all at basketball games throughout the year, but really last time we were together as far as in this kind of setting was after the bowl game. And so, right after the bowl game, we had the press conference, and really just a poor performance in all 3 phases, but especially on offense and special teams. Just didn't play the way we needed to play. And I was telling a group of donors the other night, it's really a crisis. Like, I think anytime you play that bad, it's really a crisis. And I really believe that you never waste a good crisis. And so the game was a crisis. And so how do you go about fixing that? Well, I think we've made some significant steps. I think first on offense, we went out and hired what I think was the best available offensive coordinator. He's came in and he's taken the reins on our offense. And you're going to spend some time with him later today. I know that several of you have had some one-on-one interactions, but really excited about what Graham's doing and bringing in Tony, former NFL receiver that had great success, one of the top offenses at Coastal Carolina as well, and Tony Washington. Second, and on special teams. Just didn't play up to our standards. And that's something that we've taken great pride in going back over the last 7 years, is playing great special teams. So we're addressing a couple things personnel-wise. You'll see release on that here in the next week or so. And then from a schematic standpoint, we're doing some things from a coaching responsibility-wise and from a scheme-wise, we're doing some things different that I'll talk once we get into spring ball on. And then third thing is we need to transform our roster. I think that roster management, and I know y'all are going to have some questions, roster management is so key now. And it's not just about on the field, it's in the locker room as well. And we just weren't in a good place after the bowl game. And so we've gone to work. I'll give you some hard numbers just so you know, because I think that this is really a hard part to understand for the fans. I'm going to try to explain it to you all, and then I'll kind of talk about where we're at. So right now we got 62 guys on scholarship. That's where it's at, okay? That's what's in this building. Again, the hope is we'll add one, maybe two over the next week or so. But we've got 12 guys that are signed, all right? So that's 74, and then we got 7 open spots that we will fill hopefully before the summer, but definitely before we open up fall camp. So that gets us to 81. You can have 85, right? And so we'll have some attrition. And again, all attrition is not bad attrition, okay? So we'll have some attrition between now and end of spring. That's kind of the way it goes. But I fully anticipate us being around 78 or 80 going in to fall camp, and then you have some opportunities for some blue shirts. You have some opportunities for walk-ons that earn those opportunities. So again, and I think I try to go in detail on this before, or maybe on signing day in December, but we're going to be really close to kind of where everybody else is. And so that's from a roster management standpoint. Talk about offensively, just heading into spring. Really the two things for us is from an install standpoint, installing new offense, and then fundamentally we've got to be more consistent. I think after going back and watching our games and really studying it, fundamentally, offensively, we've got to get better. And going through I know quarterback's a hot topic. It's kind of why I started with this. So here's the thought process on the quarterbacks going in. We got 3 guys that are going to get the reps during the spring, and this isn't going to be a deal where they're going to go through 15 practices and we're going to get a really good evaluation. And I've had the question a lot, just being out in public and things like that. Why didn't we go get a transfer quarterback in mid-year? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. I don't know how, if we went and got a transfer quarterback, I don't know how we get a really good evaluation on the young guys. And it's not just about this fall, but it's about the future. And we got 3 guys here, and Garrett Green, Nico Marchio, and Will Crowder, that deserve the opportunity to show what they have. Okay, so we're going to go through the spring, and the belief is that one of them will take reins of the job, or we'll get it narrowed down to 2. And if it's not the case, then we'll go find a guy. There'll be guys available. But I thought it was important for them, it's important for the trajectory of our football team, to let those guys have the ability to go out and compete in the spring. And so we'll do that. The running back room, I'm excited about that. We've added some pieces. Really looking forward to seeing what Lynn J. Dixon can do in this offense, seeing the improvements that Justin Johnson has made. I thought he was one of the few bright spots in the bowl game. And then Jalen Anderson is a guy that you go back and watch his high school film, and then what he's done here to get himself in a position to be able to compete in the spring. Really excited to see what he's going to do. Then going over to tight end, we've got some guys that are going to get some work. Brian Palinde, who's coming in from Colorado State, has been used primarily as a blocker. Like, he's really good at what he's been asked to do, and we brought him in here to really add a physical component there. He'll go through spring. Then we got some young guys in Traylon Davis and Victor Wickstrom that are going to be here, and a lot of quality reps, and they need to take another step. Up front at offensive line is we return the group that played last year. And so I think it's about them is we played good against teams that we should play good against. And that's where we were a year ago. Now, when we play against these teams that, I think we played like 5 or 6 teams in the top 30 in the country in defense. Like, we've got to be able to raise our game. And I think that's the next step for that group. I think for this spring, like Jaquay Hubbard and Jordan White have had tremendous off seasons. Can that translate when we get into spring ball? Can they push to not only be in the rotation, but can they push for one of those starting spots? We're going to exchange Wyatt Milam and Brandon Yates. Milam's going to go over and play the left side for us. He's left-handed. It's a more natural fit for him. Brandon Yates is going to slide over to the right side. And then at wideout, we've got fewer numbers. And that's one thing that we've kind of learned as we've gone through this process. You kind of live and learn as far as what your numbers are. Used to be in the wide receiver world that you'd want, 10, 12 guys, kind of have a 3 deep at each of those positions. What's become abundantly clear to us over the last probably 2 years is you can't keep that many guys happy anymore. And we had a solid group in that room last year, but you can't keep 7 or 8 guys happy. And so the roster numbers inside that room have thinned out, but we've got quality players, and I'm excited for Tony and Graham to get their hands on these guys. And what I mean by that is really is teach them and what they want in our new offense here. And I'm excited for the strides. I think that Sam James and Bryce Wheaton have made positive strides over the last 3 years. I think there's another significant step they can make. Caden Prather's got a chance to be special. And then Reese Smith's a guy I think that, and this is me, I think I underutilized him last year. I think he's a guy that can be a significant piece and is plenty good enough. He was one of our best special teams players a year ago, but I think he can be a significant piece for us offensively. And then and so that's kind of the picture offensively. I'll go over who's going to be out. Really, the only guy that will be out for the entire spring is Mike O'Laughlin. He's progressing well from his knee injury. He's on track and to be back in the fall and be full go there, but he will be out for the spring. Turn it over to defensively. I think the two things that really are focal point for us is fundamentally, and we got to get better situationally. And we just came back from a defensive retreat with myself and our defense staff, and that's one thing that we really talked about. Was we got to get better in situations. One thing that was a huge point of emphasis for us last spring was red zone defense. That was, we were really good in 2020. Red zone defense was a little bit of a weakness. We flipped the script on that, and I think what you emphasize is what you get a lot of times. When we emphasize red zone defense, I think we were 5th in the country a year ago. Now we got to get better into game scenarios, 2-minute, 4-minute situations, because we had some chances to finish some games last year defensively, and we only were able to do it, I think, on 2 out of the 5. And so we want to really make some improvements there. If you look at our depth chart there, we're going to be younger on defense, but this is the most athletic group that we've had defensively, and I think sometimes everybody in this coaches are the worst about getting really hung up on experience, okay? Because experience makes you comfortable. Well, they've been out there, they've done this. Well, really, I'll take talent over experience. And that's the hard thing, and I've been telling our coaches, hey, yeah, we lack experience, especially in the back end, but we have the most speed that we've had the most athleticism that we've had, and we've got guys that are versatile. So when you're versatile, you can kind of mix up where guys play. You can give the quarterback a different look, and we have the ability to do that. Start defensively. We'll start up front, and I'll mention up front, Akeem Messador, he'll be out for the spring. He had an upper body injury after the bowl game that he's got corrected. He'll be fine. He'll be full go for the summer, but he'll miss the spring. And a couple guys that I'm excited about seeing. Okay, Dante will go through spring, but we're not going to put him in a position where he's going to have a lot of contact or anything like that. Very similar to our approach with how we went with Letty last year, if you'll remember that, you all that were here. So the guys I think this is a huge spring for him are Sean Martin, and he's one of the guys that's had a great offseason for us. We're going to bounce him back and forth between 3 and 5 technique. And then the other guys that I think that are ready to make significant movements are Jordan Jefferson, who quietly had a really good end of the season at that nose guard spot and allowed us some flexibility, because as we went through the year last year, Akeem Messador played less and less really at that nose position, started playing some more 3 and 5. And so looking forward to that. I think Hammond Russell is a guy that we were able to redshirt last year, and I think it's going to pay off for us down the road. He's progressing. And then I think Taurus Simmons and Jalen Thornton both have had really good off seasons. And then I'm excited to see what Zyke Lawton can do. He redshirted last year at Cincinnati, came over as a transfer. He's gone through our winter. And he's strong and really a smart football player. Bandit, Linnell Carr, and Jared Bartlett are in a battle. It's time for both those guys to make the next step. Jared Bartlett's had as good an offseason as anybody in our program. And then at linebacker, Lance Dixon returns at will. Exree Lowe missed the spring from the injury that he sustained at Kansas State, but again, he's on track to he's on track to be running and to be full speed this summer. So that's a positive. He's a 6-year player, so spring practice at this point of his career is not that huge a deal anyway. But Lance Dixon is going to get a majority of those snaps at will linebacker. He played really well in the bowl game. He was injured toward the end of last season, but he's a guy that he's got all league opportunity. He really does. I mean, from a talent perspective, and then Lee Koba, junior college transfer at Mike linebacker. He's come and really established himself from the first week he was here. One of our hardest workers, extremely appreciative, has a lot of gratitude. One of our best teammates, and that's shown up in a relatively short time. And then we'll go out. Ja'Cory Hammett's going to play Mike linebacker this spring too, and that's an area that we'll with one of those 7 open spots that we'll address there at linebacker when we go. At Spear, St. McLeod will return. Naeem Muhammad, who was injured for most of the season last year, will come and push him at that spot. And then at corner, Charles Woods, who I think is as good as any corner that returns in our league. Excited for him. This is the first time he's been through an entire offseason here, and fully expect him to really kind of take a leadership role as he's done already through the winter in the secondary. Marcus Floyd at corner, very similar in style to Charles Woods. And if you'll see a little bit of a kind of a pattern here. Really believe in these upward trajectory guys. And what I mean by that, Charles Woods was an all-league player in an FCS school 2 years ago. And he's came here, and I think our on social media we released not too long ago talking about his coverage percentage, and I think he has the highest returning coverage percentage in our league, and that translated. He came in and really was a formidable corner in our league, and I fully expect Marcus Floyd to make that same transition. A really good player, all OVC player at Murray, coming over, and I think he'll translate and be a really good football player for us at corner. Nick Troy Fortune is kind of getting back into the flow. He'll start kind of limited in the spring, and the hope is he'll get back to full speed after missing the last 6 games. And then Andrew Wilson Lamp is a guy we redshirted last year. We got a lot of really hope for him. He's long. He'll be the longest guy in that room, and he can run. He's got really impressive speed. And then at safety, Aubrey Burks returns. He'll be able to go through spring. He and Hershey McLaurin will be at our free safety spot, really competing there. And over at cat safety, Davis Mallinger, who showed some flashes last year in the games he played. Maybe as fast as anybody we have on our football team. He and Caleb Coleman and Malachi Ruffin will kind of compete there at cat safety. So make sure I didn't skip anybody that's going to be out. Eddie Vesterinen, he'll miss the spring with the same injury he missed the bowl game with. So I think that's a pretty good picture of who's going to be out there and kind of what the expectations are. So I know that's long, but I wanted to kind of cover. We've got 13 newcomers that y'all knew about. We released those that have been here all during the semester. So with that, questions?